change the menu set to rigging. Okay, menu set to rigging, and then on top here you have a skeleton. Okay, skeleton, skin, deform, constraint. Alright, so this constraint, okay, we use constraint to actually attach whatever joints or maybe the deformer, the curvature, or whatever, any attribute. We assign that attribute to a controller. Okay, if you seek a character, a model, for example, let's say I just open up a sample. Character rig. Okay, so if I open up whatever images with a character rig, okay, you will find there is a lot of curves going on around the character. Okay, these are the controllers. Okay, so the controllers are made using NURBS curve. Okay, so for example, something like this, something like this. So you can see the first one is the base model with the controller, and then we have texture with the controller as well, and here also with the controller. Okay, so in order for us to move the character or animate the character, we need to select the controller and move the controller instead of selecting the joints. Right, so something like this. Okay, you can see around the character you will have controller. That is how the animations are made, by moving the controllers. So for example, here you have face, okay, and you have few dots there. Okay, all that are controllers. You can select and you can move it, rotate, scale, or whatever. Right, so yeah, let's go back here. So to control any joints, okay, you need to have a controller. Okay, and how do we connect the controller with the joint? Using the constraint. Right, okay, so let's go back to here, skeleton. I'm going to create a join. Okay, create a join. Okay, so join, when you just click, okay, it will have one join here. Click again, another join. Click again, another join. To end the process, you press enter. Okay, so how the join is built is by, you have a hierarchy. Okay, you have a child, parent, and parent. Okay, you can see from your outliner it is underneath. Okay, it will be always connected. Okay, that is how a join is built. Okay, so for example, let's say I have something like this, and normally how do we what we call make a movement for this joint is using rotation. Okay, you can rotate this. Okay, the child will follow. You can rotate this, the child will follow, and here you don't have anything. Right, so for example, if I have a simple cylinder, let's say, okay, I'm going to create a cylinder. Click and drag, click and drag. Okay, so I'm going to put it in the middle of the grid. X0, Z0. Right, so let's say I have a cylinder, and then in order for me, let's say I want to bend the cylinder using joint. Alright, so I need to have more subdivision around here. Okay, so let's say I just duplicate one more, Control D. One is without subdivision, one with division. Subdivision height, I'm just going to increase it. Okay, then I go to for wireframe, then I go to skeleton and draw my joint. Create joint. Okay, I'm going to snap to grid while press X. Okay, I just click. Why I don't see anything? Okay, there is something there. Enter. Okay, why my joints are very small? It looks very small actually. So why this is small is because my scene is quite big. Okay, if I look at my cylinder, the height is 135 centimeter, because remember we previously changed the units. Okay, and then we changed the grid display and all that. Okay, so that's why it looks like that. So what I do, I go to grid option box, I go to edit, reset setting, I click apply and close. Okay, I delete everything here. When I press A, now my grid go back to default. So each box is 1 unit. Now if I go to skeleton, create join, click, click, click. Now it looks bigger. You see that? That's because of your scene is very small. So your joints looks smaller. Okay, so let's say I undo back. Okay, so when I draw the skeleton, press X and then click, 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 click. Okay, while pressing X, so that it will snap to grid. If my joint is small visually, okay, we can increase the size by going to display, animation, joint size. Okay, display, animation, joint size. You can increase the size. Okay, it will not affect anything. It's just a preview for us, easy to see. That's all. Okay, it doesn't affect anything on the it doesn't change the effects of the object. Alright, so now I have this joint. I'm going to control D. Okay, whenever you want to duplicate a joint, you just select the parent of the joint or the root joint, we call it. Okay, the one in the top of the hierarchy here. Okay, this is your root joint. Okay, so select the root joint, control D. Okay, I have another set. Alright, so I press V and then I snap it to the cylinder. Alright, so okay, you can see, right? Let me just off my grid. Okay. Easier to see. Okay, so double check from my top view. Make sure your the joint must be always in the middle of the object. Nick, are you listening? Okay, the joint must be always in the middle of the object. Alright, so make sure, if for example, let's say my joint, okay, I select my joint, when I draw it looks like this, so means it is on the side of the object, so this is wrong. Alright, so you must place it in the middle of the object. Okay, even if you, let's say you have a human character, when you're drawing for your arms, the joint for the arms, okay. So I have a cylinder, one is with the subdivision and another one is without subdivision, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 joints. Alright, so I'm going to select the root joint. Okay, select the root joint, shift select the object. Okay, so I'm going to bind the object with the joint. Alright, so select the root joint, shift select the object. Alright, then I go to skin, bind skin, option box. Okay, you just go to edit, reset setting. Okay, some of the version, Maya version, okay, the default setting is slightly different. Can't remember, one of the version, they suddenly changed the this one, normalized weight to, not this, sorry. Let me see. No, I think this one, normalized weight. Pose, yes, correct. Normalized weight, they changed the default setting from interactive to pose. Only one version of Maya. If not mistaken, it's 2008 or 9, can't remember. Okay, all the time the default setting was interactive. Okay, after that suddenly they changed to pose. Then it will start to give some problem. Okay, the pose, it has its own pros and cons. Okay, so most of the time we just use the interactive. Alright, so I don't change anything, reset setting. Okay, bind skin. Alright, so once you have bind, you can see the color of the joints changed. Alright, so now I can select my joint, then I can rotate. Okay, so when I rotate, my object will be deforming. Alright, something like that. Okay, so just take a look again. Press 4, select the root joint. Okay, shift select the object. Go to skin, bind skin option box. When you reset once, okay, that setting will remain. So you don't have to every time go to option box and then do it. You don't have to do that. So you just straight away go to skin, bind skin. So now what happened is when we don't have a subdivision, it will not deform. Okay, there is no place for it to bend. Okay, so you need to have a division there. So that's why when you're doing a model for an animation deformation, you need to have enough subdivision. Okay, means, okay, so for example, okay, I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, I've already duplicated. I go to modeling. I go to H tool, insert H loop tool, reset. I click one edge. Okay, and then Control D, duplicate again. H tool, H loop. Okay, so this is, I have three division in the middle there. Okay, over here I go to edit mesh, it's the H loop tool. Oh, sorry, I add more. Okay, so just for the comparison purpose, I just made a different things. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this. Control D. Okay, I press V, click and drag. Control D, press V, click and drag. V is to snap to point. Okay, and drag. Okay, so I have three set here. Select the root joint, shift select your object, go to skin, rigging menu, skin, bind skin, root joint, shift select the object, press G, shift select, press G. G for bind skin to repeat the last used tool. Okay, I'm going to select all this. Okay, by right I should have put it where my joint is. The division should be where your joint is has been placed. Okay, so it's okay. Okay, so what I can do is skin, move skinned joint. Move it. Skin. Okay, I have this joints with me. Okay, I'm going to rotate. Okay, so when I rotate, you see how it deforms. Okay, so the one with the single edge, okay, what happened is this part become thinner. Alright, and here also similar case, not enough edges. Okay, so become thinner, and here because you have a lot of edges, okay, this deforms better. Okay, can you see the difference? So make sure wherever your object is deforming or bending, okay, you need to have the bending places, you need to have minimum is 3. Minimum edge loop is 3. Alright. Okay, and then why this is not correct? Because the weight, we have a problem with the skin weight. Alright, so this process, the process of binding the joint and the object, we call it skinning. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I want you to try to create few cylinder and a joint, and then bind it, then you try to rotate.
Setting of the grid again. Size of the grid.
I didn't change it.
Oh, you didn't change it? The same.
Yep, I just increased my joint size. Go to display, animation, joint size. I increased it. Okay, you draw the joint first. Okay, it will be small. Then you increase the joint size. Because why? Our character will be in a actual size. Okay, so when it is in actual size, the joint is going to be small. So you have to increase it. And sometimes if your scene is very small, your joint is going to be very big. Okay, then you need to reduce the joint size. So for example here, I draw a very small cylinder. Okay, so when I have a very small cylinder, okay, and then I try to draw my what we call a joint. I go to skeleton, create joint. I press V to snap to point. You see my joint is extremely big. Enter. Okay, so if you have a very small object, the joint is going to be big. Okay, so you go to display, animation, joint size. You have to reduce the joint size. Skeleton, create joint. Tak payah select. Buat lukis polygon dulu. Okay, lukis polygon dulu. Dia kena ada banyak subdivision. Okay, kemudian dari front view, tekan 4 untuk wireframe. You go to skeleton, create joint, and then sambil tekan X, you click, 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 click. You akan nampak green color macam dot kan? And then tekan enter. After you press enter, if you punya joint you nampak kecil sangat, tak nampak kan? Main ni tak nampak, you punya nampak tak? Ni, yang ni nampak tak? Okay, so you go to display, animation, joint size. Okay, and then you increase the joint size sampai dia nampak macam ni. What's that? Display, animation, joint size. Create joint. First, so for example, I go to skeleton, create joint, I press X, okay, on each grid, something like this. Okay, I know that this is even size, correct? Then what I do, I scale it up. When you scale up, Okay, when you scale up, you need to select all your joint and then press R for scale, and then you scale it in one direction like that. Select all your joints, then scale it up at the same time. But at first, you need to draw it by snapping to the grid. If you select the root joint, right, you are not selecting all the joints. There is two different things. Even though it looks the same, but it's different. So let's say I duplicate this. Okay, just take a look. The way you select joints, okay, for example, I select this joint, everything look like selected, but it is not. You have only selected one joint. You can see from your outliner. Only joint 5 has been selected. If I click here, this is joint 7. If I click here, this is joint 5. Okay, how do I select all the joints? You control click in your outliner like this. It looks the same like previously, right? But here the highlight is on all the joints. Then only you scale. Okay. So basically, you see, just imagine this is the hand, the arm. Okay, you are bending your arm, but does it bend like this? No, right? Okay, so what we can do is we need to do some weight painting. Okay, so all these joints actually holding some of the vertices, the vertex. Okay, so how do I know that? If I just simply select, you see the joint names are, you have joint 1, joint 2, joint 3, joint 4. Okay, just take a look. If I select some of the vertex, okay, so for example, I just select one vertex over here at the bottom. I go to component editor. Okay, so just to show you, I go to smooth skin. Okay, you see that vertex name is VTX16, vertex 16. Okay, joint 1, it's holding 0.978%. Okay, so this is joint 2, 0.02. So joint 3, 0.002. Joint 4, 0. Total is 1. The maximum influence is 1. Okay, so this joint, this vertex is mostly influenced by joint 1, right? If I select another vertex a bit somewhere in the middle, okay, so this vertex 171, okay, you see this is 0.1, 0.7, joint 2, okay, and then 0.1, 0.001. Okay, so mostly joint 2 is affecting, but still there is some effect when we move the joint 1. Okay, so means actually this vertex, I don't want it to be influenced by joint 1, correct? Okay, so let's say I select a group of vertex. Okay, so you see, when I want to try to select a group of vertex, what happened? It is selecting the joint, correct? Okay, so what we can do in this case, we can maybe uncheck the joints. I don't want to see the joints right now. So now I can select my vertex easily, correct? Okay, so let's say I select the top part of this vertices. I'm going to say that all this vertex that I've selected, I don't want this vertex to be affected by joint 1, correct? Okay, so what I do in the component editor, okay, the component editor is under Window, General Editor, Component Editor. Okay, and then I go to Smooth Skin. I have joint 1. I enlarge this screen. Okay, I have joint 1. I select the first joint here on top, and then I scroll down to the bottom, shift click, and then I press 0 and enter. When I press 0 and enter, the joint gone, no more there. Okay, that's number 1. Alright, so if I make this smaller, so after this, whenever we have the joint is moving, these vertices will not be affected by joint 1, which is at the bottom. Okay, same case here. If I show back my joints, let me just double check. Joint 2, 3 and 4. Okay, the deforming part should be affected only by joint 3 and joint 2. Why joint 3 and joint 2? Let's say if I choose joint 3 only, what will happen? Any idea? Yes, exactly. Alright, so if let's say I choose vertices, I grow the selection. Okay, let's say up to here, I make the joint 3 to value at 1, let's say 1, enter. Okay, make it smaller. Can you see that? Okay, so the vertex has only influenced by joint 3. Alright, so the deformation won't be smooth. Alright, so we need to share a bit between 2 or 3 joints. Alright, so in this case, I'm going to undo back, control Z. Okay, so in this case, this what we call this area, we will grow the selection, grow the selection. Okay, this places should be only click and drag. Okay, my joint is disturbing. Alright, this vertices should be only controlled by 2 and 3. Okay, the rest you can put it as 0. So 1 we already made it 0, and then joint 4 also 0. Okay, so 2 and 3, that's number 1. Then after that, you need to adjust this area. Okay, so how? Okay, so for example, the top part of over here should be more influenced by the joint 3. The bottom part here should be influenced more by joint 2. Alright, so just for example, so I have joint 2 and 3. Okay, this one should be more on joint 2, lesser on joint 3. So now we have point A, point 7, point 5. Alright, so I'm going to highlight everything. Okay, so let's say I increase to 0.8. Can you see that? Okay, so if I highlight, I change to 0. Maybe let's try with 6. Okay, so then it's moving. Okay, so when we use the component editor to edit the value. Sometimes you can do that. Okay, it's quite difficult for me to see how much I need to change. So that's why we use the weight paint tool. Okay, so I select my object in object mode, press 5 for shaded mode. I go to my perspective. Okay, and then I go to skin. You have paint skin weight. Okay, paint skin weight option box. Okay, so this is my tool setting here. Okay, in the tool setting you have all the joints listed. When I select the joint, you can see the white color here. This is the influenced area. Okay, when I select my joint 2, okay, this is the influenced area. Joint 3, joint 4. Okay, so let's say, always remember when you are doing painting, always start from the end joint, the last joint, the tip of the joint. Okay, so for example here, normally what I do is I will paint it with 0 value. Okay, the value is from 0 to 1, right? The influence value. Okay, so I go here. You have an option paint operation, replace, scale, add, smooth. Okay, so replace with skin weight, interactive, opacity. Okay, and then you have value. This is the value. If value 1 means it will be white color, value 0 means it will be black color. Okay, so normally what I do is I will flood the entire thing. I select the last joint. Okay, I change the value to maybe 0, and then I click flood. Everything is black now, and then I choose value 1, and then I start to paint. Okay, and make sure you choose replace. Okay, so you need to paint it until, okay, normally the last joint, it doesn't matter, okay, whether you want to paint or not. The one important is this. Okay, so normally I just click one vertex and then I just lock the joint. Okay, let's say I don't lock the joint. Let's say, okay, if I don't lock the joint, I already paint the joint 4, and then maybe joint 4, I go to flood with 0 value. I put 1 value. Oh, sorry, what happened here? Okay, so I paint it with 1 value on 1 vertex. Okay, and then I lock the joint. Then I go to joint 3. Okay, so you can see my joint is already rotated, right? So if I flood with 0, what will happen? It will become black. Other than that, okay, so make sure when you are doing painting with paint, the joints should not be rotated. Okay, so immediately after you bind the skin, you straight away go to the weight paint. Okay, so select the joint, rotation 0. Okay, select the object, then you go to skin, paint, skin weight option box. Then joint 3, flood with 0 value. Okay, change back the value to 1, and then start to paint. Okay, to adjust the paintbrush size, you press B and hold, click and drag. You hold the B key in your keyboard and then click and drag. This is to adjust your size. Alright, then you start to paint. Okay, you have to make sure everything is painted in black. Okay. make the brush smaller. Paint it. Okay, at the position where the joint is, I'm going to smooth it. Okay, so my joint is here, right? So what I do, I choose smooth, make my brush smaller, and then paint. Okay, paint. Okay, weight paint is a very tedious job. Okay, you need a lot of experience. Okay, why experience? Because most of the time you will be painting few times again and again. Okay, that's normal, very normal. You definitely will make mistake. All right. Okay, so okay, smooth. I'm gonna smooth it. Okay, after I smooth two of the edge loop, then I lock. Then lock. Then go to join 2. Okay, so whenever I paint from the tip, okay, going to the second, then the third one, okay, so flood with 0, replace value 0, click flood, change back to value 1, and then when you paint, right, you paint the whole thing again, because you already locked the influence, so you don't have to worry about it. Just to make sure everything is correct, so we have to paint again everything. Alright, so this is normal procedure. Just close this. If the brush size is very big, then you can make it smaller. Make the brush size smaller. Okay, make sure everything is white. Then go to smooth. Smooth it. Okay, here also smooth a bit. Okay, after that, lock it. Okay, go back to check to join 1. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so this is already correct because you already painted the rest. So if I go back to join 4, you see, this is what we want. Okay, this is what we want and what we want. Okay, then only you try to rotate now. Okay, let's say the join 3, I'm going to rotate in x-axis. Okay, rotate. You see, now we have a very hot shade going on here. Okay, so this is the place. First you paint it like what I showed just now. After that, you rotate your joint to check how it deforms, then you correct it. Okay, how? You select your joint again, your object again, go back to skin, paint skin weight, option box. Okay, so here the influence is by joint 2 and 3, correct. Okay, so you see at joint 3, okay, this looks a bit white color, so I need to make it gray a bit. I need to smooth it. Okay, so what I do, I unlock only the joint 2 and 3. Only 2 and 3 unlock, the rest is you need to lock it. Then I go to smooth, and then you just smooth it like that. Okay, and this part, okay, let's say I need it to bring it out. Okay, so what I do for joint we call a joint 2, I need to add a bit, add the value a bit. So I'm going to make the brush size smaller. Okay, so go to add. Okay, opacity, I'm going to reduce the opacity because it will keep on adding. Okay, this is too much, right? Okay, so maybe I'll try with smooth and see. Size bigger a bit. Okay, I'm just using my smooth. Why is it not? I'm making my brush size bigger. And then smooth it, smooth the entire thing. Okay. Now rotate back your joint to check how it's moving. Show my joint. Okay. So if I press 3 to smooth, okay, so I get something like this. Okay, so this is more like a natural bending. Okay, so compared to previously, it's like going inwards a bit, right? Let me just this is 0. Control D. Okay, so this one I bind it again using the default setting, and this one after we smooth. Can you see the difference? This is the default, this is after we paint. Okay, can you paint it? Select the object. Okay, make sure rotation change back to 0. Rotation of the joint change back to 0. Okay, and then select your object. Make sure you press 1. Then you go to skin, paint skin option box, and then select your the last joint. Then flood with value 0. Then you replace with the value 1. You go to show. Okay, okay, just take a look, guys. Okay, actually you don't have to hide your joints. Okay, so what you do is if you want to hide joints, you go to show in your viewport, you go to show menu, and then you uncheck the joint. Okay, so but here let's say I want to see the joint, but I just don't want to select the joint. Right, so what I do is I go to here. Do you have these panels? Select handle object, select joint object, select curve, select surface object. Can you see that? Okay, you uncheck the select joint object. Uncheck, just click on it so that it is not in blue color. Okay, so means after this you won't be able to select the joint. I cannot select the joint because this is unchecked. Select the object only in shaded mode. If for wireframe you press 5. Okay, then you go to skin, you go to paint skin option box. Okay, you'll get this tool, and then you need to select the joint here. Okay, you always start from the tip joint. Alright, then you go to, okay, down here we have options. Okay, number 1, the mode is paint, and then paint operation is replace. After that you have value. You have opacity also. Opacity depends on how you want to paint. So for now you just maintain as 1. Value change to 0 and click flood. Flood is it will fill up everything. You don't have to manually paint. Alright, flood, and then change back value to 1, and then you start to paint from your perspective view. Okay, so the tip joint, remember the tip joint, you have one vertex also enough. You just paint on one of the vertex enough. After you have painted, you lock. You remember the post and interactive? Do you remember post and interactive? Where was it? Where was the thing? When we bind skin, right? Skin, bind skin, option box. Here, normalize weight, non-interactive pose. Okay, so what is the difference here? Okay, if I put pose, right, what happen is the value can press B and hold, click and drag. Okay, so for example, you see I bring my cursor near to the polygon, I can see the red color thingy, press B and hold, click and drag, left and right. Okay. Okay, so join 4 done.
Yeah.
You locked it. Okay, lock. Then you go to the next join. Okay, and then same thing, change the value to 0, click on flood, change back the value to 1, and then you start to paint again. The first vertex that you paint, you have to paint it again also. Okay, then start to paint again, press B and click and drag to increase the brush size. You paint it until here where your join is. You don't paint over there. Okay, so I'm going to press B and make it smaller. Okay, so you paint somewhere up to here. Okay, make sure you paint from your perspective view. You cannot leave any gray color. For example, here, can you see there is a gray over here? So you have to make sure everything is white. Okay, if you leave it gray, then you will know what is the problem. Then you have to repaint everything again. Okay, so when you're doing character, you'll have hundreds of joints. Okay, and after you paint everything, it looks like nice. When you start to move the joints, then you will see the problem. Then you know you have to paint everything again, every single thing. Okay, that's how you learn. So few times you will be repeating painting again and again. Okay, after that you will know what are the mistakes that you should not ever do. Okay, which is you have to make sure everything is white. You cannot leave anywhere gray. Sometimes it's difficult to see, so what you do, you just paint it again and again, so to make sure there is no mistake. after you paint it up to this level, up to here, okay, then you use the smooth. Instead of replace, you click smooth, you change your brush size, okay, and then you smooth these two what we call a edge loop. Just click and drag. Okay, so the third joint, I'm going to just lock it, then followed by the second one, flood with 0, okay, replace 0 value, click flood, and then change back value to 1, and then start to paint again the entire thing from the top. Make sure you lock first. If you don't lock, then gone, everything is gone. Okay, so after you have done painting the wet paint, and then you have to try to rotate your joints. Okay, so select your joint, try to rotate your joint, and then to see if whether the deformation is what you wanted. Okay, you try to press 3 also, you check. If it is not, then you make some adjustment the part where it deforms. So for example, here maybe I want it to be smoother a bit. Okay, so select the object, press 1, go to skin, paint weight, option box. Okay, you only unlock the one you're going to adjust. So for example, this area is controlled by this joint, which is joint 3 and joint 2. So unlock the joint 3 and 2, and then you just smooth it. Okay, you can select a bigger area, or maybe you can use a bigger brush also. Right? Okay, so okay, done with this. Once done, go back to 0. If you want to move the entire object, you select the root join, then you move it. Okay, you can move the root join to move the object, and the joints above it, you only use it for rotation. Alright. For example, if you want to, for example, this one, when I select two joints and then I rotate it, it looks like more like a finger. Alright, it's rotating more like a finger. So let's say if you want to do something like a tail, okay, rotation similar to a tail. So what you do, you have more joints and more edge loop for that specific object. So for example, I create a cylinder, okay, a longer one, and more subdivision height, okay, something like this. And then I go to skeleton, create joint, press X. So every two grid line, I'm putting one joint. Okay, let's say something like this. Then I press enter. Okay, so to scale up the joints, okay, so you have to expand all the joints in your outliner, or you can press shift and click the plus icon here. It will expand everything. So highlight from the tip up to the root joint, then use R for scale it up in one of the direction. Then you move your root joint. Okay, you snap to point because there is no reference point for my grid. So press V and then click and drag. Make sure you put it in the middle. Check from your top view whether it's in the middle or not. You see, my joint is on the grid. Okay, my object is not. So let's say my object is correct. Okay, so I need to select my root joint. Okay, select my root joint, move, press V, snap to point, then move it. Okay, so always we model first, then only we place the joint. So the joint need to follow the object. Alright, so after I've placed it, okay, something like that, select the root joint, shift select the object, go to skin, bind skin option box. I'm going to use the default setting here. Okay, so I can select more than one joint. Okay, I've selected all except for the tip and the root joint. Then we can actually just rotate this more like a tail kind of animation. So I didn't do the weight paint or whatever. Still you can see there is some segments going on there. Okay, when this happens, you double check your weight paint. Okay, it should be very smooth. Or maybe you need to increase the number of joints. Okay, if let's say, okay, I already done this, and then I find that maybe my joint is not enough. Okay, so I'm going to undo my binding. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Okay, so it is not bind. So what I can do is I can actually move back this one so that I can see clearly. Select all my joints, press R to scale. Okay, I just duplicate it, duplicate the root joint, Control D, and then move it up, something like that. So how do I join back this thing? Okay, you just simply parent. The connection between each joint is only parent and child. Can you see that? Okay, so select the child first, shift select the parent, press what for parent? P for parent. You go to edit, you see parent, shortcut is P. Okay, unparent, shift P. So parent. So you see when I parent, it automatically connects. I undo back. Okay, select the child, shift select the parent, shift P. Press P. Okay, so it will have a connection there. So now it becomes S1 with the transform node there. Right? So this thing Okay, I'm going to select everything. Select from the root joint up to the tip joint and then scale it down a bit. R for scale. Okay, what's happening here? No, because you have a transform node there. Okay, so don't select that, then you scale. Okay, don't select the transform node, then you scale, then you move your root joint. Select the root joint, snap to point. Okay, press 1, press V, click and drag, check from the top view. Okay, this is correct. Okay, again, select the root joint with the object, bind skin. Now I select all my joints except for the transform node. Rotate. Now this is much smoother. You see that? Okay. Okay, can? Alright. So I'm going to show you one more thing. Delete everything. Okay, I've deleted everything. Go to top view. I create a new cylinder. Drag. Add subdivision height. Okay, something like that. Then I duplicate my polygon. I snap to grid. Control D. Okay, snap to grid as well. Control D. Snap to grid as well. Okay, so I have 3 objects here. Let me see how many options we have. Option box. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to draw a joint, skeleton, create joint, press X. Every 2 grid line, I'm going to add 1 joint here, enter, and then select all the joints, you scale it, R for scale. Okay. The tip joint should be almost at the end of the object here, then move it. Okay, this is somewhere here. You see, right? So from the top view, okay, so I'm going to move all my object to be center of the grid. Okay. So this is fine. Select the root joint, Control D, press X, Control D, press X, click and drag, press X, click and drag. Okay, so why I'm doing this? Okay, why I'm doing this? So that you can differentiate between the options that we have for skinning. Okay, so when we do rigging for a movie, animated movie, so you definitely need to weight paint. Okay, because every detail is very important. But let's say if you're doing a simple animation, a cartoon for YouTube, whatever, a simple one. Okay, so you don't have to weight paint. Okay, you have another option. You select the root joint, shift select the object. Okay, you go to skin, bind skin option box. Okay, I go to edit, reset the setting, and then you have bind method. Okay, bind method, closest distance. Okay, closest hierarchy. Okay, and then you have heat map. You have a geodesic voxel. Okay, so let's say the default that we use is closest distance. Okay, just reset. Okay, this closest distance, bind skin. Okay, the second one, I'm going to choose the second hierarchy. Skin, bind skin, option box. Change to closest in hierarchy. Apply. Okay, so the third one, choose another one, heat map. Apply. Okay, heat map will take time a bit to calculate. Okay, let it be. Okay, done. Then fourth one, I'm going to use this. Okay, and then apply. So here, let's take a look. I'm going to select the same joint here, and then I'm going to rotate. And then I'm going to press 5. You can see the difference. Can you see that? Of my grid. Okay. So you see sometimes, okay, different setting gives you different result. This one looks the same, very similar. Okay, this one's a bit different. Okay, this is heat map. Okay, previously the heat map was much better than this, and now this is actually slightly better than this one. Okay, where does this applies? Wherever, for example, do you remember we talked about T pose and then A pose? Okay, when you do A pose, okay, when you bind, what happen is the closest distance by default, right? Closest distance. So whatever vertex is nearest to the joint, it will bind together. Okay, so when you have A pose, your knee joint, your elbow joint is very close to your body. So what happened? Some of the vertex at the body will be influenced by this joint. So when you move your character up, this part will be moving as well. Okay, so that is when we use this type. Okay, so for example, just for a demo purpose, I create some simple object. Okay, let's say I have a cube. Okay, then I add some division. Okay, I go to face, select this 4 faces, Control E to extrude, Control E to extrude. Okay, then I rotate this. Okay, this is not hand, just a simple demo purpose. Control D, oh, sorry. Control D. Okay, so let's say I have something like this. So I need to draw a joint. Okay, rigging, skeleton, create joint. Okay, so let's say this is my root joint for wireframe. Okay, so somewhere there, click. You can click. Let's say I want a straight joint. I can press shift and click together, straight joint. Okay, something like that. Then I press enter, and over here I need to draw another joint. Let's say press G. Okay, at the shoulder normally you have one, and then at the elbow you have one, at the wrist you have one. Okay, so just imagine this is just one line. Then we will connect this to the whatever joint that we have on the body at the backbone, let's say. So I shift click this, and then I press P. Okay, so I'm going to select the root joint. So make sure it's in the middle of the object. Okay, so make sure your object, your joint should be overlapping. Alright, so you have to make sure on that. Double check. Okay, so select the root joint. Okay, so before select binding, remember I told you you need to delete history, you need to freeze transformation. So for example, this object you have transformation. Okay, here you have your okay, this one duplicated, don't have. So anyway, edit, delete by type, history, the object. Then you go to modify, freeze transformation. So everything is 0. Right? So select the root joint, shift select the object, you go to skeleton, skin, bind skin, option box. Sorry, I duplicate first. Alright, so that we can compare. Control D. Oh, that is 2. Join object skin by skin option box. Reset this my default setting. Skin by skin option box. This is GeoVexel. Okay, so I'm going to select this joint, then try to rotate it. Okay, so this joint is actually affecting the spikes. Alright, so if I select this one, let's try and see. Okay, it is still moving, but not that much. Okay, if I move this together, okay, can you see the difference? Okay, so when you doing a simple rig, you can straight away use this setting for the bind skin. Geodesic cell. Alright. Okay, so this bind skin, we use it for a deforming object. But how about our robot character? There is no deforming, it's all mechanical parts, except for this thing. We didn't separate, we don't have a mechanism for it to rotate, right? It's a one piece of object, so it will deform. Correct? Okay, other than that, it is not deforming. So what we do? Any idea? No idea. Okay, never mind. So same thing. Let's say I have a cube. And then I have a cylinder shaped arm. Okay, and then let's say I have a sphere joint. This is a simple one. Okay, let's say something like this. Alright, so everything is mechanical, it is not deforming. Okay, the same way I'm going to create a joint, skeleton, create joint. Okay, click first, shift click, shift click, shift click, and if you had head or whatever, you can continue drawing. Okay, let's say I enter, and over here, let's say I want to press G. Okay, click first, shift click, so that I get it straight. Enter. Okay, so I need to place it in the exactly in the middle of this object, right? Because this is mechanical, not organic. So move the joint, press B, click and drag, check from the top view. Okay, it is in center, fine. Check the object, yes. Okay, so this is okay. So what I do, I parent this joint to whatever joint over here. Shift click, press P. Okay, parent. Okay, now I can actually rotate this joint. Okay, so without using bind, okay, because this is a mechanical object, it doesn't deform. Okay, I can straight away parent the object to the joints. Okay, so for example, this object, the cube, I'm going to parent it to maybe this one. Hit P. Select the child first, then select the parent, then hit P for parent. Okay, so for this example, we have two objects here. This one, shift click, then shift click the join. P for parent. So if I look at here, you can see there is two object and then followed by the parent is here. This one. Okay, so join 21, it has three child. One of the child is join 22, the cylinder and the sphere. So now if I rotate my join, I select the join and then I rotate, your object will be moving. Okay, and if I rotate this one object, the whole entire thing will be moving. Got it? If I rotate this one, everything will be moving as well. Okay, clear? So wherever there is no deformation, we can straight away parent the object to the joint. For example, if a human character, okay, you have eyeballs, you have eyelash, okay, so eyebrow and all that, those are separate objects. It is not extruded from the face, right? Or maybe the teeth or the tongue. Okay, all that object you can straight away parent it to the head joint. Okay, and for example, you have upper teeth and lower teeth. Upper teeth you parent to the head joint. Lower teeth you parent to the jaw joint. Alright. Okay, so okay, how do we control these joints? Okay, we need to have controllers. Alright, so controllers, okay, so for example this one, okay, so I'm going to rotation to 0. For example this one, we need a controller to hold the entire object, okay, entire character maybe, which we call it as a main controller or a global controller, okay, which we will use it to move the entire thing. So for example, this root joint, when I move it, it moves the entire thing. Okay, the rest of the joint, this is maybe for rotation purpose. Alright, okay, so we create any controller we create using a NURBS curve. Okay, and NURBS curve, if you go to curve and surfaces, you have a NURBS circle and you have NURBS square and also EP curve tool. Alright, so if I create a NURBS circle, just take a look. Okay, I'm going to delete this. Go to create NURBS primitive interactive creation. Okay, I want to click and drag to draw the circle. Okay, so check the interactive creation, then I click on NURBS circle, I click and drag on my grid. Okay, you can see there is a circle there, and in the outliner there is only one object, NURBS circle. Alright, but if I create a what we call a NURBS square, okay, click on drag on the grid. Okay, I have a square shape, but in the outliner I have a group. This is a group icon. Then underneath the group I have 4 different curves. Okay, so when you are doing a controller for a character or a rig, you need to have only one single curve. Okay, so this one, the NURBS square, we never ever use it. Cannot use. But how if I want a controller which is a square shape? Right? Let's say I want a controller which is a square shape or maybe different shape other than the circle. Okay, we can use the EP curve tool. Let's say I choose a EP curve. I click, 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 click. This is not square, correct? So what we do, we go to the EP curve tool option box. Double click the EP curve tool. You have an option for curve degree. you choose linear so that your curve will be straight line. Okay, choose linear, and then I'm going to close it. I press X to snap to grid. Click, 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 enter. Okay, so in the outliner you can see there is curve 1, which is only one object. Okay, so when you select, you will select one object. Got it? Okay, and how about if I want other shape other than these two shapes? Okay, so for example, okay, all that are EP curve tool, but how do you create it? You create a polygon first. You create a polygon first. Okay, so whatever shape that you want. So this is just a box shape. Maybe I add one here, and then I choose vertex. I scale it in whatever direction, let's say something like this, and I want my EP curve tool to be in this shape. Okay, so if I press 4 for wireframe, I want in this shape, something like this. Okay, and you cannot use a polygon as a controller, you need to create curve. Alright, so why? One line, okay. Polygon also one object. So that we can see whatever inside, right? So that you just see the line. Okay, so I have this object. Okay, when I render, normally it will show up. But if you go to attribute editor, you go to render stats, primary visibility, you turn it off. When you off this, it will not show up in your render view. Okay, clear? Clear? Any polygon, if you uncheck the primary visibility, it will not show on the render view. Okay, so that's so when you create a controller, you uncheck that, then you can use it as a controller, but very rare, very few people use it. Alright, okay, so let's go back here. If I want a curve at this shape, you choose EP curve tool, make sure double click and choose linear. Okay, then snap to point. When you draw, you snap to point. While pressing V, I click, 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 click. You can repeat again on top of, sorry, wrong. Okay, EP curve 2, press V, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go back here, and then go up here to here to here and here. Go down here and up again, and then go back down. Okay, make sure all the edges are covered. Okay, if it is repeating on the same line, doesn't matter, it's okay. Just to make sure everything is covered, then you press enter. Okay, and then you press 5 for shaded mode, you select your polygon and you delete. Okay, now I have my curve. This is just a curve. Okay, got it? Okay, so this you can use as a controller. Okay, so let's go back to here. Okay, we're going to move our cylinder or control the joints. Okay, I just use a simple NURBS circle. Place it exactly where your joint is. You can snap to point at a joint. Alright, so press V from the middle here, bring it to your joint, and then double check from your top view, press V, click and drag to the joint. Sorry, what happened here? Why is it not here? Undo, I press V, I click and drag, it is no longer here. Where did it went? It went up here. Why it went up here? because when I press V, I click from the top view, click and drag, whatever point it can see, it will just snap. Okay, so if I just want to move in one axis or one axis, you choose that axis. Okay, currently this is at the ground here, right? You press V, click only one direction, the arrow, drag it, and then drag again, like that. Okay. Okay, that's number one. And then let's say I need another controller in middle somewhere. Control D, move it up, let's say over here. So press V, just snap it to the joint. Can you see the joint? Right? Okay. Done. We have two controllers. Let's say we have two controllers. Okay, so we're going to assign control the joint, the root joint using this controller, and this joint using this controller. Okay, so normally joints we don't just simply move it because it will be stretched. Okay, for example, if I select this joint and then I move it, my object will be stretched. We don't want that. Okay, we just rotate. So this joint, the root joint, can be used to move because we want to move the entire character or the object. Here we only rotate. Alright, so we need to tell that, okay, this controller only controls the rotation. This controller controls the rotation and the position or the translate. Alright, or the move thing. Alright, so how do we do that? We use constraint. Okay, so if I go to constraint, you have few different types of constraint here. You have parent, point, orient, scale, aim, pole vector. Okay, those are the main constraint. Okay, parent is it will control the translate and the rotation. Parent constraint. This is not this parent. We have edit parent. Here also we have constraint parent. Two different things. Okay. Here edit parent. Okay, what are the difference between the constraint parent and that? For example, constraint parent option box. Okay, so I'm going to reset setting. Okay, the most important thing when you do any constraint, this maintain offset. Okay, let me just double check the constraint point. Yeah, still not. Okay, from those days, if you check the parent option box, the default setting is maintain offset, which normally we do that. We always do that. We always check the maintain offset. But for the other constraint, they never put a default setting here. So you have to check this. Okay. So parent constraint is already checked. Parent constraint option, maintain offset check. So translate, rotate, no scale. Normal parent, it will control the translate, rotate and scale. Constraint parent only translate and rotation, no scale. Okay, so maintain offset check, then you click add. Okay, and then you have point. Constraint point is actually something like constraint translate, movement, position, right? Same thing, you just have to check the offset, maintain offset. Constraint orient is for the rotation. Constraint rotation, that's all. Alright, and then scale. Aim is for direction. For example, you have two eyeballs, okay, and you have a controller. Whenever you move your controller, you want the two eyeballs to follow the controller, right? In 3D character, when you have for example, I have a sphere, maybe facing this way 90 degrees. Let's say I have two eyeballs, and then I have a controller. Okay, always remember whatever EP curve tool or you use a NURB circle, you can always edit the what component. What is the component of a NURBS curve? What is the component of the NURBS curve? Yes, control vertex, correct. Okay, so you can adjust the shape using your control vertex. Okay, you can, for example, I make it smaller, this part and this part, so that it looks like eye a bit, or a sunglass or whatever. Okay, then I put it in the front, F8, move, okay, something like that. So if I look at the example here, they have a left and right, and can you see this one? Okay, they have one big box and then green and red. Okay, so means I can actually create another one to control individual eyes. Okay, I put it in the middle here, and then I bring it to the front. So that same place. Okay, Control D, press V, drag from one direction only. Okay, something like this. Okay, so this one, okay, let me just put some color so that you can see the difference. Okay, something like this. Okay, so you select your parent or child first for constraint. So let's say this is the parent. For this eye, shift click, aim, option box, make sure maintain offset. Okay, any constraint, maintain offset must be checked. Then I go to apply. Then I select the other controller, which is the parent, shift select the child, and then apply. Okay, then I close. And for this one, what I do, I select 1, 2, 3, I hit P. What will happen? So the big box will become the parent for the smaller two objects. Right? So P for parent. So when I select the bigger one, both are selected. When I select one only, one is selected. So if I move now, it will follow. This is constraint aim. If I select this, it will move. If I move it this way and move it the other way, you can do that. Or maybe both are looking at the same one point or whatever, you can do that. If you want to move both together, you just select this and then you move it. Okay, this is constraint aim. Okay, done. Pole vector. Pole vector is for you to control the direction of IK handle. Okay. What is IK handle? In rigging, you have two terms. One is FK, one is IK. Forward kinematic, inverse kinematic. Because of the pole vector. Okay, pole vector, we use it. Let's say I have a joint like a leg. Okay, and then you can actually control the IK's direction. Let's say I have another controller in front of my knee or at the back of my elbow. I can do this using my IK handle, and I also can move my elbow only. This is full vector. Okay, let me just show you something. I go to my top view. Let's say, okay, I only have one. Never mind. Let's say this is my skeleton, create join. I just click for my shoulder, and then for my elbow, for my wrist, enter. Then after that is my fingers and all that. Okay, so it should be slightly bended, number one. Number two, from the front view, it should be in straight line. Okay, from the front view, it should be in straight line. Means a straight line means, let's say you're not doing T-pose, but you're doing A-pose. How you gonna do it straight? Cannot, right? But you draw it straight, then you rotate the whole thing, so that the rotation plane is always straight. I give you another example. So let's say I move this a bit, or maybe like this. Okay, so now this joint, it is not straight. The rotation plane is not straight because this is already bended. Okay, so let's say instead of this you have A-pose, you do it straight first, you draw straight, but also bended from the top view. You rotate this joint, the shoulder joint, and then you bring it down like that, so that when we rotate this joint, it will meet back your shoulder joint like this. Okay, so I have Control D. Let's say this is slightly bended like this. Okay, so now if I rotate this, okay, it is not going to meet this joint. Okay, what will happen in real case when okay, so this is my top view, this is my front view. Close everything. Okay, so this is my top view over here. Okay, top view slightly bended. From the front view, this is straight line. So go to skeleton, create IK handle, option box, reset the tool just in case. Click the root joint, the first joint, and then the last joint. Okay, then you will have an IK handle. If I look from my outliner, you have extra things, IK handle. Okay, so this IK handle, you can select the IK handle, you can move it like this. Okay, same thing if you are in the T-pose, right? So I'm going to do that, remove the thing. This is my front view. In the front view, I will just rotate the shoulder joint, okay, and then I create my IK handle. Skeleton, create IK handle, click the first joint and the last joint, and then when I move, it will be straight all the time. Okay, so where does this whole vector comes in? Okay, I go to skeleton again, create IK handle again, click. Okay, let's say I have another controller. Exactly at the back of the knee. Okay, change the shape a bit, control vertex. Okay, give some different shape for it. Okay, let's say I need to move it further a bit more. Okay, so whenever we want to do constraint, which one select first, parent or child? Okay, select the parent first when we are doing constraint. So this is our parent. The child will be our IK handle. Okay, IK handle normally it will be over here. The second joint that we click, it will be here. So you just try to shift click, it will straight away select the IK handle first, not the joint. Okay, so it will select. If you can't select, you select the controller here, control click in the outliner. Okay, then you go to constraint, pull vector, option box, just reset. There is only weight there, then click add. What happened here? I'm going to show. I don't see the line. Never mind. So what happened here? Let's say I'm bending the hand. Alright, so bending hand, you can straight away select your IK handle and then you move it. Correct? When you move, okay, I already bend it. I want to move my elbow. So I select my controller here. I just move up and down. Okay, so pull vector constraint. Okay, what else? No, constraint. Okay, that's it. If just to show you, I didn't show the orient, right? If I have a cube and then I have a let's say sphere. Okay, let's say I'm going to control, whenever I control my sphere, I want the cube to be controlled as well for the rotation. When I rotate my sphere, I want the cube to be rotated as well. So select the parent first, shift select the child, go to constraint, orient, option box, maintain offset. Don't ever forget this. Okay, if let's say you don't select this, maintain offset, and then I'm going to add, here nothing happens because I never rotate it before. But normally when you have join, you have controller, definitely there will be a rotation. Okay, so here I'm going to undo back. Okay, shift select the child, constraint, orient, option box, maintain offset, check, then click add. So whenever I rotate my sphere, the cube will follow. If I move my sphere, what happened? It follows. Why should it follow? Because we only apply the constraint orient. If we want it to follow, we select again the parent, shift select the child, go to constraint, point, option box, maintain offset, add. So now there is two constraints going on, constraint point and constraint orient. If I move my sphere, the cube follows, okay, up or down, whatever. Okay, basically it's translate. Then if I rotate my sphere, it will follow as well. Clear? Okay. One way of controlling one object and another object is using constraint, right? You have a constraint parent, constraint point, constraint orient, constraint. What else? Pull vector, yes. One more. Aim, yes. All right. We have parent, point. One more thing you missed. One more is scale. Yes, correct. Okay, parent, point, orient, scale, aim, pull vector. Okay, besides that, we also have a different tool for us to control. What is if we want to control it directly? Okay, not necessarily must be on the object. For example, okay, I haven't put the controller. Okay, for example, here we have pull vector, right? Pull vector must be placed near to the elbow or the knee, all right, the joint. And if let's say I have a controller for my shoulder or my elbow or my wrist, it should be there. The controller should be placed there. Okay, what if I'm doing a model RC controller? When I move this button, that object should move up. For example, I move this down, it rotates up. Okay, so this one is I'm using translate, there I'm using rotation. Okay, so different attributes, different attribute. For example, when I move this, that one should be scaled up. Okay, so that is we use set driven key. Okay, this is a new term now. Okay, set driven key. Okay, set driven key, you need to go to animation menu. You go to key, set driven key. This one, the pronunciation is not driven but driven. Okay, so set driven key. Okay, and then you have set. When I click set, why doesn't it open up? Key, set driven key, set. Oh, sorry, option box. Key, set driven key, set option box. Okay, so you have set driven key. Okay, here you have a driver and driven. Okay, driver is something like a parent and driven is the child. Okay, so whatever controller that we have is the driver. The object that is going to be controlled is the driven. Clear? Okay, so for example, okay, where do we use this kind of set driven key tool? Okay, sometimes a certain animation we do it like a preset. Okay, for example, okay, let's say I have a controller using, let's say, the circle here. Okay, and I have an attribute of let's say I freeze the transformation, modify, freeze, transform. So I want to set that let's say another cube. When I change the position of this NURBS circle in X value from 0 to maybe, let's say, 1, what I want this cube to do is rotate 90 degrees in maybe Z value. Z should be 90, let's say. Okay, so in the set driven key menu, I need to select my driver, load driver, select my cube, load driven. Okay, and you can see there is all the attributes there. Okay, so the driver's attribute will be translate X, the driven's attribute will be rotate Z. Okay, currently my driver's attribute is 1. I need to change back to 0. When 0, rotation also 0. When translate X 1, rotation Z should be 90. Okay, so currently this is 0, rotation 0, right? Okay, so we need to select the object name and the attribute, object name and the attribute, then key, click key. Okay, when I click key, you can see there is a blue color over here. Okay, after that, click back your driver from the menu here, change the value to 1. Okay, and then click the cube, the driven from here, change the value to 90. Enter, then key again. That's it, done. Close. So whenever the value is 0 or below, this is 0 also. Whenever I move it from 0 to 1, it rotates. So actually the value is quite small. I should have put it like okay, maybe 10, from 0 to 10 maybe. Okay, can. So this is where like we control the fingers and all that. Can too much already. That's okay. Not to worry. This is for you to understand how we actually do the process. Then later on, when you go back, you can do one by one. You do start with the modeling. Then after you are okay with the modeling, then you go for UV unwrap. After you are done okay with that, then you do texturing. Then only you do shading, step by step, one by one. That's how I learn it. Okay. So then before you do animation, make sure you do rigging first. Okay, basic animation of course can. You can just move, set key, can. Okay, but when you before you do character animation, you try to do the rigging part. Okay. Alright, so okay, so let's start with our character. I'm going to open robot. Display show all. Okay, here if I want to remove the whatever color that I've assigned, okay, here I already assigned yesterday, right? Okay, so what I do, I right click on the color attribute, break connection. So I will remove the color and then maybe I set a pink color. Okay, something like this. Okay, I want you to open this file. Remove the image plane, delete from your outliner, select your image plane and delete. You have in a character before we go and pull one. Character rigs. Copy the scene file into your project file. You can place it in a folder. Then you can try to open. Let's say I open the jack rig. Let's say you open up your jack, you can see there are some controllers there, blue, red and yellow and orange. Okay, let's take a look over here. On the hand, okay, on the hand you have a circle over here. Okay, if you look at the name of it, left arm, upper arm. Okay, when you select the shoulder, okay, so this is actually an FK controller. FK controller means you rotate. Okay, but if IK, you don't have anything here, you don't have anything here, you only have in the wrist. Okay, so here elbow, you have this, you can actually rotate. Okay, and shoulder also same, you can rotate. On the wrist, you can rotate as well. Can? Okay, let me just find where is the switch. Okay, normally any character rig, it will has a switch. Okay, switch means to change from IK to FK. Okay, so currently this is FK. Okay, normally they will have a switch near the wrist or the wrist controller. Okay, I don't find the IK, FK. If I show this, let me see. Okay. So they do it in such a way. Let's double check first. Oh, okay. Over here, you can see there is the yellow color controller on the hip. Can you see that? Okay, select that. In the channel box, you will find where is that? Okay, left arm FKIK, right arm FKIK. Okay, left arm FKIK, right arm FKIK. If I change the value to 1, okay, both of it change to 1, you can see the controllers are disappeared, number 1, and you have a different set of controller. Did you find it? This is 0, this is 1. Okay, 1 is IK, 0 is FK. Right? So when when IK means you will have one controller here and another elbow direction controller. If FK, you will have 3 controllers on the shoulder, on the elbow, and on the wrist. 3. IK, you have 2 at the wrist and the direction. Got it? Okay, this one we call it as switch. IK, FK switch. Okay, I will show you how to do that, but don't worry, you don't have to do. Okay, because you need to be very detailed. Okay, you have to do it slowly. When you are learning, you have to do it very slowly, very carefully. Right? That's one. And then what else? Okay, as you see, there are some of custom attributes. Okay, so for example, if I select the head, for example, let's say select the head. Okay, you have a rotate XYZ, scale XYZ, rotate axis XYZ, and then let's try with other controller. You have rotate XYZ, scale XYZ, rotate axis, elbow slide, arm stretch, forearm bend. Okay, all these are custom attributes. You can do it by your own. Means you add another attribute to whatever object that you want. Okay, clear? How do we add a new attribute? No idea. Alright, no worries. Okay, so for example, just now remember I told you we use the set driven key to control certain things. For example, here let me say if I have 4 fingers. Don't have. Here you have on the fingers, right? Okay, these 3 fingers. You have a middle joint, last joint, and then side to side finger stretch. Okay, middle joint and last joint. If I click and drag, I can actually rotate it together. Okay, so the attribute name is middle joint. Okay, the one we actually controlling is the joint's rotation. Okay, clear? These 3 things. You select one of it. You have middle joint, last joint. Highlight both the attribute. You just middle mouse button, click and drag. Select 3 controller, middle point, middle joint, last joint, middle mouse button, click and drag. Okay, and then you can just adjust the finger stretch. Okay, if you want to stretch it. Okay, don't stretch it, leave it. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is you can have a controller with a custom attribute and you use that attribute to control another attribute. Alright, so for example, let's say, take a look first. I'm going to show you how to use the set driven key. If let's say I have a rigging, skeleton, create, join, press X, click. Okay, so this is my 4 fingers. Control D. Okay, I have 4 fingers here. Okay, and then I have a controller on the wrist, let's say. Just imagine this is your hand area. You have a wrist controller. I can create another attribute over here by going to modify, add attribute. Okay, modify, add attribute, and then you give a name for it. Okay, so 4 fingers band, I don't know. Okay, whatever name that you want to give. Okay, and then you put a minimum and maximum value for your attribute. This is not for rotation but attribute. Maybe minimum 0, maybe you can have positive and negative value, right? So maybe negative 10, maximum is positive 10, default is 0. So it will rotate upside and down, right? So minimum negative 10, maximum 10, it doesn't matter, any value is 10. Maybe minimum is 1, maximum is 2, 10 also. Okay, then I click OK. So I have 4 fingers band. The attribute is there, but it won't do anything. I can change the value, negative 10, positive 10. It doesn't do anything because there is no other connection. So set it to default. Okay, and I need to find out what are the rotation that I need to control. If I select these 3 fingers, okay, so this is rotate Z. Alright, rotate Z for all this object. So I go to set driven key, animation, key, set driven key, option box. Okay, select my driver. This is my driver. load driver. I have my attribute here, right? Okay, and for the driven, okay, I need to select multiple objects. Okay, so 1, shift 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 objects controlled by one attribute. Okay, load driven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so you need to highlight all 12. And rotation, what rotation just now? Yep, rotate Z. Okay, now if I select my what we call the controller, the default value already 0. Now the current rotation also 0. I press key. Okay, press key and then click the controller, change the value to -10, and then select all the joints from here and then change the rotation. Negative, I want it to go upwards. So click the attribute name and then move it up. So it can be whatever value, let's say 30, let's say any value, doesn't matter. Okay, and then click key. Select back your driver, change the attribute value to maybe 10, +10, maximum value, and then select back your driven, all the driven, change the value to a +30. Just now what is the value? Going down, -30 or maybe 40, doesn't matter. Okay, so -40, enter. Then press key. Change the value of driver, change the value of driven, then press key. Even though you already changed the value, you make sure you select your attribute name, then only you press key. Make sure of that. Okay, sometimes what are the mistake people normally do is, even though they already changed, they forgot to let's say for example they forgot to select the attribute name, maybe accidentally click somewhere else. Okay, so if you don't select this, okay, when you key it doesn't work. Okay, you will get a error message. So once we have done, we have 3 keys. First is 0. Okay, when this attribute is 0, the rotation also 0. Okay, so if -10, it will rotate up. Okay, if +10, it will rotate down. This rotation is 30 degrees, this rotation is 40 degrees. Okay, easy, right? Alright, okay, so alright, done. So that's how actually this has been done. So if I check my wireframe, okay, they've hidden the joints. Show everything is there. Please double check. Sometimes the way they build it, okay, we have to figure out how to show the joints and all that. We'll hide it somewhere, I don't know where. Okay, not sure. Leave it. Alright. Okay, and you can test around. Okay, so for example, this one, when I rotate, okay, the hand rotates. When I try to move, okay, the arrows are in gray color, means this controller is not allowed to be moved. Okay, how? they just lock the attribute. Here I have rotate XYZ. I don't have visibility, I don't have scale, I don't have translate. Okay, so for example, this, let's say, just imagine this attribute, this controller, I only want this attribute to be here. The rest I want to hide it because I don't want anybody to move it. Let's say. Okay, so you just highlight the attribute, you right click, you lock and hide selected. So don't have. Okay, so let's say I don't want to show all this. Right click, lock and hide selected. Okay. So you can't move, you can't rotate, you can't scale, you can't hide it also. Can. Delete can. Delete tab. Can. Okay. Okay. How do I get it back? Show hidden. Don't have. How do I get it? Okay. So you go to channel. You go to channel control. Edit channel control. Okay. In the channel box, select the object. Go to edit channel control. Okay. Here you have two things. One is keyable locked. Okay, so one is locked. Okay, let's say here is locked, this is non-locked. Number one, highlight all the locked. You have to move to non-locked first. Move. Okay, so now my attributes has been not locked but still not visible here. Then you go to keyable. Go to keyable. After you unlock, you go to keyable, you go and find for your attributes. Okay, so translate XYZ T. Make sure you choose the right translate. Okay, translate XYZ and then move it to keyable. Move this way. Now I have my translate. Then rotate XYZ. Rotate XYZ. Not rotate pivot, not rotate translate or whatever. Rotate XYZ. Okay, then move it to keyable, then scale XYZ. Oh, sorry. Move it, then visibility. Move it. Okay, you have actually you have a lot more attributes which is not showing here. Okay, which is this. Okay, you can just show all and then you can test it out. All right, so for example, pivot, rotate pivot, translate pivot. Let me see. Scale pivot, scale third. Okay, I can't remember which attribute is that. Okay, something to do with the pivot thing. Okay, so what happened is, if let's say you imagine you have a cube, you want to rotate the cube on the ground. You rotate, it will snap on the ground. You rotate again, it will snap on the ground. It's not easy to do actually. Okay, so by getting back the attributes of the pivot, you can animate the pivot point. Because why? Let's say you have a cube, you need to put a pivot point here, you rotate. Then you animate again the pivot point, then you rotate. Something like that. Alright? So if you don't animate the pivot, then it will be very difficult for you to get the correct rotation. Okay, done. So most of the time, normally what I do when I'm doing rigging, right, I don't lock and hide selected until I finalize the character. So what I do, I just lock the character, lock the attribute, don't hide it. You highlight all the attribute, you right click, lock selected. When you lock selected, you can easily highlight again and unlock. Okay, right click, unlock selected. That's it. You don't hide it. You hide it when you want to give it to the animator, you already finalize everything, you want to give it to the animator to work, then you hide it, then it will look clean. Hide selected, so they don't have any other option, they just use your whatever attribute that you have done for them. Okay, let's go back here. You can try and error with the whatever things that you have. Let me see. Okay, this is just changing the shape. This is for the rotation.
This, the objects here, the components that are locked.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it? What you're locking?
Which one?
This jack, and you're locking the shape, the model.
You mean the body?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Here in the layer,
Yeah.
they just put it as reference.
Okay.
R for reference. If I click 4 for wireframe,
Yeah.
the polygon looks black color, right? So normally reference will become black. So you just click here, it'll become blue, then you can select the polygon.
Okay, so you only click the reference.
Yeah, R. Then you can select. So sometimes, okay, some people they prefer put it in here, and then sometimes they just lock whatever attribute. Depends on preferences, and that's why when you open different rig, you can see a different controller. But most of the time, these things will be the same. The head controller, and then there is a neck controller, the chest controller, shoulder. This is a specular. What is this? The bone at the back.
Spine?
No, this one.
Shoulder blade. Shoulder blade.
What is that? No, I can't remember. Okay, never mind. Okay, that joints name, it will be there. Okay, and then here you have midpoint, and then the standard one is this and this. This is to control the upper body, and this to control your hip area. Okay. And then you have a IK FK switch standard. All the character will have, most of the character will have. Okay, depends on the character also. And you will have a, this is for your knee direction. If I, let's say, move the feet up, and then I can use this. Okay, so that's why they put it as reference. You don't want to accidentally select the polygon, you only want to select the controller. Okay, so I cannot select, so I can, okay, so depends on this. And for the legs, IK controller is here, I think. Left IK hip, let me just double check. Oh no, not this. 4 for wireframe. Not this one. I don't know, you can check it out. Okay, so the fit. Okay. Okay, so this one you have toe raise, no, heel raise. Okay, so this one we call it reverse foot controller. Okay, there is a term for it in order for you to able to do this. Okay, if you put a join here and then join here, you cannot simply do this. You need a certain setting for that. Right, so I'll show you that.
What do you use for the dances?
Yeah, but most of the 3D character, they will have this function, raise heel and then toe raise and whatever, they will have this. Okay,
skin will let us?
Yeah. The skinning part is actually not difficult.
So
Okay.
UV wrap, that's
UV wrap is for texturing.
texture.
Okay, so the difficult part is assigning this controller. It's very technical, that's it, but also not difficult. All right, you have many things to do when you're doing rigging. Rigging is the most technical stuff in a animation production pipeline. Okay, because you have to like for example, when you do switch, right? Okay, when you show the IK handle. Okay, so for example, I go to left arm IK. Okay, so when you set this attribute to value 1, you need to hide the elbow controller, you need to hide this controller, and also you need to make the orient constraint value to 0 so that it doesn't affect. Remember, this controller, we control the orient, correct? The joint. So the orient should be set 0, here orient 0, and then the IK handle also it has a value. I can't remember what is that. The weight of the IK handle you need to change to 1, and then when the value of this attribute left arm FK is 0, then you have to set back all the orient value to 0 or 1, and the IK switch IK handles value weight to 0, and hide the visibility. So there's a lot of things that for one attribute. Okay, so even though this is just one of it, just imagine all of this, and for each controller you have different attributes. So there is many things you need to do. So that's why it's a very people with detailed eye, they can work as a rigger. Okay, because they have not okay. Currently, I'm showing you the very basic things. This is still very basic. You have an advanced rigging also, where you do programming and all that. Have you watched this what meatball? Before that, you need to be able to do at least something like this. All right. So if this is difficult, okay, you still have another option. Maybe you can explore the mechanical moving parts, a rigging to create for a mechanical parts, like for example, like a crane kind of thing. Okay, so you'll have only few what we call a few controllers for that, or maybe few joints. Okay, so if I go to rigging, so let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4 joints. Okay, you can have a controller to actually control the rotation of this. Okay, and then controller to rotate this and this, or maybe you can have an IK as well. Okay, IK handle from here to here. Okay, not necessarily only in between got 2, you can have more joints. Sorry. IK handle, move. Why is it not moving? Create a new scene. Skeleton, create skeleton. Okay, so you see, you can do a crane kind of thing. Okay, so you can create a controller to control the position of this, and you can add a pole vector to control the rotation of the IK handle. Okay, or you can also use the roll function and maybe twist. Let's try to be twist. Okay, something like this. A controller that controls another attribute using set driven key. Okay, and some facial rig. Okay, something like this. Okay, you have a face, you have a controller at the side, and you move this part will be moving. All right. Just one last thing I want to show you also. I didn't show you the blend shape, right? Okay, I duplicate this, Control D. Let's say this is our character, and then we duplicate the character, and then we go to the component level. Okay, let's say this one, I just simply move it up. Okay, don't add or remove vertex, face, or edge. Cannot. It must be exactly the same number of vertex, edge, and face. Alright? Okay, so let's say I move this. So what happened here, I can select the whatever changed shape, or maybe I duplicate another one. I change again some more, maybe something else. Okay, so you have multiple shapes. For example, smile, sad, excited, whatever expression. Right? So you select all the shape. Lastly, you select the original model. You go to rigging, deform, blend shape. Okay, just click on blend shape. Okay, then what happened, you select your original object. In the channel box you have blend shape 1. Click on blend shape 1. You have these two. This is the name of the one you duplicate. So normally after you change the shape, you rename the whatever expression. This is smile, this is sad, or whatever. Okay, so you can use it to actually change it. And do this. Okay, so this is how the eye blinkings, the smile, and all that is being done. So the controller will be on the side. That controller, when you move up, this value change to 1. Move down, change to 0. Move up, 1. Okay, this is blend shape. Any questions? Alright. Okay, so we go for lunch now. Alright.